Hey guys, Cream Crazy here. Welcome to the usual wrestling rant, which is happening on a Sunday. Then again, it's happened every day this week. This is the final piece of Wrestling Rant week. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, because this entire week has been full of good stuff, right? And today, to finish off my wrestling t-shirt showcase, here's the Austin 316 shirt that I got in the mail the other day. Nice. Anyway, this video, because Night of Champions is 2 weeks away or so, yeah, about 2 weeks away, I was really contemplating a lot of things about the pay-per-view, because over the years we've seen Night of Champions go from this big lofty celebration of championships to a normal pay-per-view, and I wanted to kind of answer the everlasting question of what does Night of Champions really celebrate? Because a lot of people in the IWC, in the wrestling world, understand that the championships have very little legitimacy, because in all fairness, the reigns are either too short or too long. The right guys or the wrong guys hold them. They're at the point where they're not defended very much. And that's the problem. A lot of people see the titles nowadays more or less not what they used to be. And I don't know whether that's cynicism or something else. But when you really put it into perspective, when Night of Champions was first coined as part of the Vengeance canon in 2007, they were trying to, in a way, I think, build championships back. They were trying to make the championships seem important. Dedicate a pay-per-view to them. Then people will care. The only problem, of course, was that we only had one title change that evening, which kind of made it all feel like, wow, you take pride in your current champions, but you don't seem to care that we need change in order to make things seem right in the passage of things. And I feel, since that pay-per-view, Night of Champions has put on some stellar matches, has held its place in the calendar very well. But over the time, I think, as the championships have lost meaning and respect amongst the fans, that the pay-per-view has just gone with it. Because I think the last couple of years, last 2 years I think, CM Punk and The Big Show and of course CM Punk and Triple H, non-championship matches on the card. And the fact is, that's where you start asking the question, is it an ordinary pay-per-view? What does the pay-per-view celebrate? Is it championships? Is it celebrating the unity that the belts bring under the respect and happiness of the industry? Is it something like that? Because to me, and to many others, it's just a normal pay-per-view. Because at one point, due to the significance it should hold, people were saying, if booked right, Night of Champions could be the 5th big pay-per-view on the calendar. Unfortunately, that is now taken up by Money in the Bank, and that isn't a bad thing. But when you think about it, Money in the Bank sells. Extreme Rules generally sells. Night of Champions doesn't really sell much, and I'm guessing it's probably because it's in September now, not in June. It is in a prime position where it's not going to get respected, because the burnout after SummerSlam, you never really get much viewing figures in, especially for pay-per-view buys on that spectrum. For me, it's all about wondering. The titles don't mean too much, but the fact is, the pay-per-views don't either when you put it into the cost perspective, the quality perspective, and everything else together. The pay-per-view of Night of Champions really should be a place of making the championships feel important. Put on matches that will give people reason to watch. Have rivalries that are over the belts, because a lot of the times they're not really over the belts at all. They're over each other. And that desire to be champion, you don't really get it across the TV screen. Now, that could be due to WWE's laborious scripting of promos, but that's one thing that the pay-per-view misses, that it's lacking heart. And for a pay-per-view about championships to lack heart is just really sad, because the championships are the heart of the industry. It's what these people are fighting for. These people who wrestle day in, day out for our entertainment understand at the end of the day that it's that big slab of gold or silver or bronze or whatever it is on leather, or even as Progress Wrestling has a staff, that's what they're fighting for. And that's the fact that you can say, I'm striving for my moment to achieve that glorious moment where I hold that lovely thing that I've been trying to get my entire career above my head. That, and at the pinnacle of your industry as well. In the WWE, because it is the biggest, you can't deny it. If you want to go to wrestling and get to the top, you go to WWE, you get noticed. You then leave it, you have enough publicity for indie bookings, and you'll do it. You see, Night of Champions should have this great aura around it, an aura of celebration, secondary to WrestleMania, because honestly, that's the thing when you've got the orchestral theme songs and the pillars of the Roman themed. Obviously, just look at the stage when you've got those gigantic drapes with the titles on it. It's meant to be this big bombastic celebration of championships, but that's where it ends. Because in image, it is that. In image, this pay-per-view is that. That amazing symbolism of championships in our industry, in WWE. But is that really it? Is it just an image? Is it just a facade to say, well, here's another little gimmick aspect? The rest of this will just be your standard WWE pay-per-view fare. And I think a lot of people, when really thinking about where Night of Champions has come from since it was formed, you remember when it was formed? Do you remember in 2007, before every title match, they showed a clip of a really well-known champion holding that belt, and they cut to the audience, and you saw them, and that held the prestige. That made you go, this title fucking means something. And you look at the fact that it's now just a normal pay-per-view, and you wonder, it's not doing anything. It's not giving us reason to care about those straps of leather with gold or bronze or silver stats belted onto it. It's not about that anymore. And that's why I asked the question, what does it celebrate? Because it's got the image of something bigger, and I don't understand why WWE don't cash in on it. I mean, sure, the original Night of Champions, no matter how grandiose it may be, will always be overshadowed by the Benoit murder suicide, because it did happen that weekend. And I feel WWE wanted to say, okay, we've got a problem here. It was a great idea, but it's now going to be continuously remembered like that. Every time we remember back to what kind of format we did, it'll always be linked to that. So they thought, just treat it like a normal pay-per-view, everyone will forget about it, end of story. But it took away the charm. And it's very rare that a pay-per-view has charm. Money in the Bank has charm, because you kind of realise people are going to go bend over backwards taking risks in ladder matches. WrestleMania has the charm because it's the showpiece. It is the crown jewel. You realise the expenditure that goes into it. You realise the fandom that comes out of people with it. The Royal Rumble, it has a unique feeling to it because it's the Royal Rumble. It is the big, well, it's what Michael Cole quoted, the All-Star Game, where everybody fights for the one chance to achieve greatness. Survivor Series is all about the survival of your ability as a wrestler and you as a person. SummerSlam is just a giant beach party. Effectively, that's what it is now. And you see, that is what pay-per-views need to feel like. Different from the average show. And if we don't make that happen, they're just the normal show with added extra fancy decorations and fireworks and theme song changes, and it doesn't really seem like they're worth the money people buy for. And Night of Champions definitely falls into that category, because we want to see Night of Champions, and we want to look at the history of the championships, some of which go back over 50 years. Well, not anymore in terms of WWE, because the ones that they've got are not very long. In fact, they've only... You know, I just kind of realised something. Because of the name change from WWF to WWE, they wanted to have those belts with a WWE history. You see my point there, people? It makes perfect sense. And you see, for those titles to build up history, to build up prestige, to have an event that showcases it is perfect. But, honestly, to many of you watching this, and to many of you people who understand what I'm saying. The pay-per-view needs something more. It unfortunately hasn't got that. And at the moment, they're trying to make John Cena, CM Punk something worth watching. It is going to be worth watching. The fact is, I've said this many times, that a pay-per-view can't be sold on a match. You have to sell a pay-per-view on the pay-per-view. You see, I think this is one of the reasons why WWE got rid of the Attitude Era pay-per-view names like Backlash, Unforgiven, Judgment Day, No Mercy, Armageddon. Pay-per-view names like that, because they felt that they lost their value, that they lost their special aura to them. And I feel WWE, well, that's one of the reasons why they rehash and make new pay-per-views every now and again, because they want to create that special feeling that you're getting something better than the average. Of course, that isn't always the case. I mean, the person who made Heroes of Wrestling is probably thinking, wow, when I started this thing up, I wanted it to be some grandiose celebration of wrestling history. Instead, it turned out to be the shittest event in history, because watch it and you'll see what I mean. Because it was. I have watched it and it is painfully bad. It's taken me 11 minutes to cough. That's impressive. Honestly, they realised with those older pay-per-views that they were losing their touch. And people are going to complain, saying, oh, we want the old pay-per-view names back. Okay. Honestly, you look back at some of those pay-per-views, you realise the theme and the aura that theme created fit. Armageddon 2000. This Hell in a Cell, the end of the world as we know it, the end is here. Destruction. Hell, 2002, the event that followed, had a 3 stages of Hell match with Triple H and Shawn Michaels in it. Armageddon again had a last ride match and an Inferno match in 2006. It lived up to its billing of being an end of the world, end of the year pay-per-view, because it had that significant, eerie tension around it that made the pay-per-view worth paying your fucking attention to. And I feel WWE want to recreate something like that. And unfortunately, they can never do it, because no matter how much marketing you put in, it really depends on just how the event can sell itself. Because many pay-per-views can sell themselves on a gimmick. Then again, gimmick match pay-per-views do sell. Hell in a Cell has that fire and brimstone stuck inside a cage, you're writhing in agony as you try and escape the damn thing. That's a great imagery. But unfortunately, it doesn't work, because the Hell in a Cell is now tame, and you kind of put that out there. Extreme Rules, exactly the same. Gritty, barbaric. That's the aura and the feeling you're meant to get. But again, nothing. Night of Champions falls in the same bracket. It's supposed to be the grandiose celebration of what we hold around our shoulders, waists, and everywhere else, if you count John Cena and our truth's ways of holding belts. But you see, that's where it is. Night of Champions does not celebrate anything. In fact, to be honest, bar WrestleMania and SummerSlam, not many of the pay-per-views really celebrate anything nowadays. They don't have a special reason to be there. They don't give you a special saying of going, it's time for that pay-per-view again. And this is the thing. Everything in wrestling, no matter what it is, has to have a theme around it. Because even Raw and SmackDown have that. Raw used to be the technically still is, the in-your-face, it's red of course, the in-your-face show where you could experience everything up close and you could be shocked, you could be wowed by things. SmackDown, polished, clean. It is wrestling at its purest. Because to be honest, for many years that's what SmackDown has been. And you see, that's the thing. Every pay-per-view, every show has that aura. And honestly, when you read the name of Progress's third show, 50 Shades of Pain, you then realise that name and you think that's going to be something more edgy, more barbaric. Because in wording, in imagery, in symbolism, pay-per-views and events can mean anything. And if they can sum up what they're trying to celebrate through those three means, it can be worth a fortune in being able to market it to a person who will not usually give a shit. That's what makes WrestleMania so big. Because It's the grandeur. You look at it, and you understand the history. You understand the pageantry. You understand the feeling it gives every single wrestling fan. And you build on it. You build the best card you can, the best celebrities, well, I wouldn't say that, but the best place, the best stage, the best fireworks to say, this is what you've been waiting for all year. This is what you are celebrating. You are celebrating the biggest event in your calendar. And every other pay-per-view should have something similar to hold to their own. But unfortunately, as the industry has become watered down, become more of a, I would say, out of the mainstream public eye, because honestly, it's fading. And we all can realise that. But as that has happened, pay-per-views lose their meaning. And while they do it, they become worthless to us. We just see them as another show, or a Raw Mark II, or a SmackDown Mark II, if it becomes that bad, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, Night of Champions, this upcoming 2 weeks from now. We're going to go into it thinking, okay, just another pay-per-view. And I honestly don't think that should be the case. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do to change that? What are WWE going to do to change it? You see, that's what's important here, people. That's what's important. Because if we don't know what Night of Champions really celebrates them, what the hell is it there for? What are any of the pay-per-views here for? If we don't really understand why are they there, what they mean, what they stand for, what they celebrate. Because they can't just be events, they need to be something more. And until that happens, I don't think pay-per-views are really going to mean the same, bar WrestleMania, possibly bar the Rumble as well, because it fills up with the most excitement every year. Because the minute that happens, pay-per-view buys will increase. Until the bar is raised, it'll just keep going down. And that's really sad, because pay-per-view has been a steady survivor throughout all economic times. I don't want to see it die because there's a lack of ingenuity when putting thought into why these events are here. And guys, after that very passionate video, I'm going to end it there. I hope you've enjoyed Wrestling Rant Week and all that it's offered. We're going to go back to a regular, normalised schedule next week, which is quite sad because I don't want that to happen either. So yeah, you know what you can do. Sorry. There! It is nearly 11:30, and I have just watched the Paralympic closing ceremony, which was awesome. Nonetheless, you guys know what you can do. You can comment your views on anything I've said in the comment section, like this video, subscribe up there for more. I'm only doing a couple of more vids before the end of the next 2 weeks, then I'm off to uni, so huzzah! Anyway, you can also like my Facebook page, you can add me on Skype, you can ask me Q&A questions, you can request banners. Yeah, I'm getting a few more requests in. It's all going good. Anyway, just want to point out one other thing, guys. This next video I'm going to do. Now, this next video, I wasn't too sure what I was going to do. And in fact, I've just remembered I've shut the fucking document down, so I have no idea what I'm supposed to be looking at. Fail! Double fail. Nonetheless, you see, I wasn't too sure what video to do next, because I took a lot of time and thought into making this Wrestling Rant Week possible. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a video that was requested to me by Rico3. And he gave me this fantastic... I forgot that he gave me this request once, but he reminded me. And it was a fantastic request. And I'm doing this next week. And I'm loving it because we talked it over and realised who could be in this. Vince McMahon's top 10 blacklist. Now, if you have no idea what a blacklist is, I will get onto it when the video happens. But it's basically me counting down the top 10 wrestlers that Vince McMahon has gotten on the wrong side of, or otherwise, and will have no likelihood of being on WWE programming again. I will be listing a top 10 of that. So, hope you're looking forward to that, guys, because I could see that one being quite a lot of commotion being stirred by it. I really could. And that's something good, isn't it? And that's next Sunday, guys. So please look forward to that as much as you can, because I know I am. I still haven't finished making the list, so all should be good. Guys, I have been Cream Crazy. You've been people watching. This has been the question on whether what does Night of Champions really celebrate. And I will see you on Facebook, on Skype, on DA Making Banners. I'll be everywhere. But I'll be back here on YouTube next week. Cheers, guys. Have a fantastic week. Hope everything goes well.